Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. and that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Monday, November 10th, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I'm live here in Bermuda, where the Bermuda Tourism Authority, they are, of course, this is PGA Tournament Week. And so a lot of folks I'll be talking to this week, including the Premier of Bermuda as well. So look forward to chatting with my frat brother. So lots to share with you coming from this country just off the East Coast of the United States. Hey, Democrats are catching a lot of hell for crossing the aisle to end the government shutdown. They say they're just being practical, but their own party is calling it straight up betrayal. We'll have a live look from the floor. Donald Trump threatens to dock the pay of air traffic controllers who don't return to work. Remember, they aren't getting paid. The twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief is handing out early Christmas presents to his allies. The convicted felon-in-chief has pardoned 77 folks, including many who were tied to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Three-time NBA Hall of Famer, my alpha brother, Lenny Wilkens, has passed away at the age of 88. We'll celebrate the man, the mentor, and the legacy he left on and off the court. And, of course, he, of course, in the Hall of Fame as a player and a coach. Plus, Charlemagne responded to my comments where he said the Democratic Party should end the government shutdown. I got something that needs to be said. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. Yeah, it's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, this is a live look of the United States Senate, where last night 8 Democrats crossed the aisle to join the Republicans to vote on the continuing resolution to fund the government. Democrats say they extracted a promise from Senate Majority Leader John Thune that there will be an actual vote on the Affordable Care Act subsidies, and so we'll be talking about that. Of course, this ends the month-long gridlock, the longest in U.S. history. Now the issue, though, is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has called the House back because they have to vote on the Senate bill, and then it goes back. So there's all this sort of stuff that goes on that's taking place right now. Now, here are the 8 Democratic senators who crossed the aisle. We're talking about, first of all, I'll mention them, but here's Speaker Mike Johnson talking about the end, close to the end of the shutdown.
The Senate's vote late last night of 60 to 40 opens the door now. The Senate is moving forward on an amended House CR, a continuing resolution, that will reopen the government until January 30th. The Senate will be back in session this morning to finish their job, and we're certainly praying that they do. They'll need unanimous consent from all senators to fast-track their final vote. As you know, there are some procedural hurdles that one or more could throw in the way, but we certainly hope that they won't do that because so many people across this country are desperate for the government to reopen. At the very moment that they do that final vote, I will call all House members to return to Washington as quickly as possible. We'll give a 36-hour formal and official notice so that we can vote as soon as possible to pass the amended CR bill and get it to the president's desk. As you all know, and he said as recently as last night, I was with him, and he told the press, he said, we want to get the government open.
Now, 8 Democrats cross, and what did they get? They didn't actually secure anything tangible, only the promise, not a guarantee, that Congress will vote next month on extending key health care tax credits that Democrats have been fighting for. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries said he would fight for the legislation if it returns to the House for a vote.
And that's why Democrats have been waging this fight. And we'll continue to wage this fight. No matter what comes over to us from the United States Senate to the House of Representatives at some point this week. Our position as House Democrats has been crystal clear.
One of the 8 Democrats that crossed is Illinois Senator Dick Durbin, who is in the Democrat leadership. He spoke about why he made this decision.
After lengthy negotiations, an agreement was reached with the Republican Senate leader, John Thune. We will agree to open the government until January 30th, 2026. During that time, we will pass 3 bipartisan appropriation bills that will fully fund SNAP, WIC, and all the veterans programs, and finish our work on the remaining spending bills for this fiscal year. The agreement would also reverse the Trump administration's mass firings during the shutdown and prevent future ones through January 30th. We credit Senator Kaine of Virginia for this provision. Leader Thune has also promised the Democrats an opportunity before mid-December to present a Democratic bill on the floor with proposals to change the law and protect American families from dramatic health care premium increases. It is my fervent hope that this ends up being a bipartisan effort. It would be such an achievement of the Senate to finally return to that status. I've served in the Senate for 29 years, and I've never seen that kind of offer from a Senate majority. During the historic roll call last night, I walked across the aisle and met with Senator John Thune, the Republican leader. I told him that I was counting on him to keep his word on this agreement. He assured me he would. The fate of this effort depends on both the Senate and the House of Representatives. After a 7-week absence, the Speaker Johnson needs to call his members back and join us in the hard work that lies ahead. Many of my friends are unhappy. They think we should have kept our government closed indefinitely to protest the policies of the Trump administration. I share their opinions of this administration, but cannot accept a strategy which wages political battle at the expense of my neighbor's paycheck or the food for his children. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Last I checked, the Republicans don't actually support extending the subsidies. They already voted. They took them out in the big ugly bill. Let's go to my panel. Dr. Ome Congo, being a senior professor lecturer at School of International Service, American University, author of Lies About Black People, How to Combat Racists. Dr. Niambi Carter, associate professor, School of Public Policy, University of Maryland, author of America While Black, African Americans, Immigration and the Limits of Citizenship, and Tyler McMillan, social justice leader and movement strategist. Glad to have all three of you here. So, Niambi, what the hell? What? I'm kidding. What did they get?
Nothing. I mean, this is the part that really kind of chafes everyone's hide. It's like, we were in it, right? It's been 40 days and we can bear it. It's hard and it hurts. But if there's going to be something at the end of this, and all they seemed to get was, oh, we'll have a conversation in a couple of months. Still kicking the can down the road to January. And let's be clear, once those new healthcare premiums kick in, it's going to be pretty hard to walk them back. So, I mean, they got nothing. I mean, the main thing that they told us is that they really care about watching people hurt rather than, staying the course so that people don't hurt over the longer term. And so if this was what you were going to do, you should have did this 20 days ago.
So let me be very clear on the Congo. If anyone suggests that, oh, I don't care that people are hurting, that's sheer stupidity. On this show, from the date the inauguration took place, we talked about the attack on federal workers. On this show, we've literally had union leaders talking about this very issue. All of the major unions discussing the impact of federal workers. And so we understand that with the government shutdown, that government workers were not getting paid. But let's also understand what the fight was for. It's to make sure the federal government workers get their back pay. Mm-hmm. Russell Vought said, we ain't doing that. The fight was over getting folks rehired who were illegally fired, unjustly fired by Trump. That was a part of this. Healthcare was a part of this. Expanding SNAP benefits was a part of this. So if you are a Simple Simon and you think that this was only about a healthcare battle, then you have not been paying attention not only to what's been happening in D.C., other media outlets, but you damn sure ain't been paying attention to this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely true. It really sucks, man. The way we're coming off of, the elections last week, and for Mike Johnson and Thune to basically be right, because last week they said, well, Democrats are pretty much making this noise, and after the election, I'm sure they'll come back around. And that's what happened. And so when you see that the way that they caved, when you see who caved, and when you see Chuck Schumer pretending like, oh, I voted no, like he didn't really know what was going on, when Shaheen said that they've informed him on everything, this looks absolutely weak on behalf of the Democrats. They successfully, and we all talked about messaging on the show and how Republicans are always better at them. They successfully, throughout this shutdown, changed the narrative. They moved the narrative from Trump talking about crime, from Trump talking about all of this other stuff, and they were in control. They had the people in control, in line with them. Everywhere we went, people were talking about the need to fight. And for them to cave in like this so quickly, it's extremely disappointing. And yes, like you said, nobody wants to see anybody suffer, but we know that these Republicans don't give a damn about health care. We know that they had special sessions in July to get tax cuts for the wealthy. We know that over this weekend, Roland, as they were saying no SNAP benefits and we're going to penalize states, Trump was saying, I'm going to penalize states that do this. He was working to get more tax cuts to the wealthy and those companies. So this is who they are. And anything that gets down to even if the Senate does pass something on healthcare, anything that gets down to the House is going to be voted down anyway. So what the hell? It's like people feel so let down, and they have a right to be. And I don't know. Schumer needs to go. Ro Khanna's right. I mean, he needs to go. He is not the leader that Democrats need in this moment. And anybody who feels like this is a win for Democrats, particularly long term, they are slightly mistaken. These guys are not to be trusted, and we're about to find out once again.
Yes, right.
Here's the other thing, Tylik. The First Circuit Court of Appeals was going to be ruling very soon on SNAP benefits. That was putting pressure on Donald Trump and his thugs in the White House. You had folks, and not just people who were Democrats who were galvanized. You literally had red state folk, farmers, others who were realizing how they were getting screwed for the people who they were voting for. So by doing this, what you now signal is that, hey, any future, because let me be real clear, the continuing resolution only for a few weeks. We're going to be back here in a few weeks. So what they've said is, hey, if SNAP is a part of this, it doesn't even matter. So it's not that big of an issue. So this is going to this compromise is going to weaken any Democrat effort in the future, in any future CR, any continuing resolution.
Absolutely, because they bent the knee, and I think as panelists just said, like to be real, our so-called leaders, if they can't stand firm for the people they represent, then it's time to primary them out, because we are at this point rewarding cowardness and calling it compromise, and I think them bending the knee has showed who they're willing to protect, who they're willing to give into, and so many Democrats, as we have seen, have bent to the knee and bent to the knee of these Republicans, and they're out here making pinky promises like they're at the kids on the playground. And I think we can't afford to give in to what they're saying, because people's paychecks are on the lines, food is on the line, people's dignity are on the line, and I think it's not just about policy, but it's about priorities. And we can't compromise on humanity. We don't negotiate over or whether families get food on their table, or whether kids get childcare, or folks can afford their medicine, or whether folks, have the dignity to be able to, not lose their jobs, or based off of a political standoff. And so I think, we continue to bend to the knee, and I think Democrats have shown that. And I think it's time for us for new leadership and for us to be real about this moment and primary these folks out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem here is that the folks, the 8, are not up for re-election in 2026. Most are not up for re-election until 2030. And people really need to understand what this broader battle was. This was a much broader battle, Niambi. People, it wasn't just healthcare. And again, people also have to understand the nuances of this. So yes, people started getting letters saying their health care was going to be increasing, but open enrollment for the Affordable Care Act is also happening as well. And so the real issue is what action could be done before January, not some letters rolling out in September.
Right. And I think one of the things that you said, Roland, I think we have to always think about this, is that our memories have to be longer than our wallets, right? That we have to remember this moment, because there was all of this goodwill, right, coming out of last week, as Omakongo rightly pointed out, that there was all of this momentum that they had, that people said, okay, look, we may not like all the Democrats all the time, but clearly they're doing something right. And in 1 week, in one fell swoop, they squandered all of that. And some people are making a cynical bet, right, that because they're not facing re-election, that we will forget this. But I think we have to make it our business to stand on their necks and make sure we don't forget this, because as you said, it's not just about the policy that's here. I think Tylik made a really important point about people's dignity and acknowledging the humanity that is at the center of all policy, that should be at the center of any politics in this country. But that we have to remember that who we are as people has to be bigger than these parties and has to be bigger than these individuals. We might look kindly at some of these people. We might remember what they did way back when. But like Janet said, what have you done for me lately? And that needs to be what our calling card is now. That needs to be the calling card at the midterms, and that needs to be the calling card at the next senatorial elections. Some of these people don't need to be there anymore. They are more concerned about their own office and potentially about their own ability to stay in that office. It's a comfy place to be, right? Than they are with making sure that the humans on the other end of those offices are being served. So absolutely primary these people, absolutely look at all possible candidates, right? All possible representatives, but also look to what we can do in our state and local elections, because as we saw on Tuesday, those are going to be huge. And many of the things that we care about, we just are not going to be able to rely on a federal response, especially because the authoritarianism that is at the heart of all of this is also something that we are going to be dealing with, not just in this moment, but in the decades to come, because that's also being cultivated right now.
And on the Congo, the thing we have to understand here, that same bill had almost $1 trillion in cuts for Medicaid. So I need people to understand this fight was solely not a single issue. It was multiple issues that impacts millions of Americans.
Absolutely. And when I was watching your interview with Reverend Barber last week, one of the things that he mentioned was like, everywhere he goes, the people get it. They understand what's being fought for, even with the struggles that they're having. And he constantly talked about the need for Democrats to put these faces in front of everybody so that they can see what's happening at every different level. They don't do that on a consistent basis. He talked about the need for us to let Democrats know that we want them to keep fighting. We've been doing that. We've been talking about that. But these guys, and look, yeah, these guys may not be up for election for 2, 4, whatever years, but Schumer can resign his position tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It's like people need to put pressure on him to go. And so the fact of the matter is that these Democrats, yes, they understood that Trump is all about the single message, the single word. And so that they focused it on healthcare, but they also knew that it was about more than that. But then to just give up and cave in and basically say, well, we're going to get our vote and Republicans are going to be put on record. They already been on record. They've been trying to kill Obamacare forever. Trump hasn't had a policy. He's only had concept of a plan since he came onto the scene. So we're going on 10 years now as it relates to him. They've shown their hand from beginning to end. They're going to do more to protect the wealthy, to protect the insurance companies, to protect the people who run these hospitals, who are these millionaires and billionaires, and not give a damn about the people. All while Trump is going down to Mar-a-Lago on taxpayer dollars to live his life lavishly. Kash Patel and Kristi Noem, all of that. So when you talk about the fact that there were so many other areas of this bill that Democrats needed to be focused on, it seems to me, Roland, that we the people, we knew that. We got that. We understood that because we were living it regularly. But these 8 Democrats are just so out of touch that they didn't fully give a damn about enough of us to want to continue. And that's where they failed us once again. And lastly, the fact that everybody predicted this. Democrats, Republicans, Democratic commentators, liberal outlets, Republican outlets, they all said that Democrats were going to cave right after the election. And here we are.
So, Tyler, let's talk some numbers. This is from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. You see, this is what happens when you don't give the full picture, the full context. So, federal workers, are we concerned with those families and lack of paychecks? Absolutely. But I want to run the numbers here, y'all. There are 2.2 million federal workers. There are 42 million Americans getting SNAP benefits. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, that law cuts $1.1 trillion from Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act marketplaces. Not only that, upwards of 20 million people will not have health care. CBO estimates that 10 million people will become uninsured due to Medicaid and ACA marketplace cuts in the law, including 7.5 million people who will lose Medicaid in 2034. An additional 4.2 million will lose marketplace coverage because the law failed to extend the premium tax credit enhancements, which lower annual premiums by more than $700 on average for people who received it. So they talk about the pain of federal workers, which I totally understand. And we've been talking about their plight for months. But we're also talking about this bill impacting 42 million with SNAP, 20+ million with health care. Right there alone, we're now talking 60 million people. Those are also real numbers.
That's right.
Exactly. And it's a much bigger picture, as you even laid it out. And I continue to say this again, like, you don't compromise on humanity or, what grounds you. You don't negotiate over whether families get to eat, whether, elders get their medicine, or whether children have roofs over their head, or, childcare. And Democrats are out here looking reasonable instead of being righteous for the things that we know we deserve in this moment, what our families deserve, what our children deserve, is that safety. This fight was about dignity. It's about saying that basic survival shouldn't be negotiable, that food and housing and safety net programs and fair pay aren't bargaining chips, but instead we should be reminded that democracy means that we take care of each other, not, take away the things that we know we need to survive. And the fact that, as you said, this is a much bigger picture and Democrats are bending to the knee, it just shows that are they really in it for a righteous fight? But instead here trying to just look reasonable and look like the savior. And in this moment does not require that. It requires that we, stand up and fight for the things that we know we deserve. Because in the long haul, we already know who will get the short end of the stick. And right now, the fight is about ensuring that we get our share of the pie, even as we reopen.
Hey, y'all. Gotta go to a break. We come back more right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Jerry Johnson from Harlem on Prime, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Let's go live to the floor of the United States Senate, where Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont is speaking.
Premiums. Let us not pave the way for 15 million Americans to lose their health care entirely because of savage cuts to Medicaid. All she is asking. Now, I noticed that recently some of my Republican colleagues are beginning to talk about the health care crisis. Well, during Trump's first 4 years, he had virtually nothing to say about the crisis, nothing to say about it in the next 4 years. But I'm glad that there is some discussion. The truth of the matter is, in my view, that the current health care system is broken, it is dysfunctional, and it is cruel. But I want to ask my Republican friends a simple question. Are you happy with the fact that here in the United States we are the only major country not to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child? We are unique. That's not the kind of exceptionalism we should be proud of. Are you happy that we are paying twice as much per capita for health care, over $14,000 per person, than any other major country, and yet we have 85 million Americans who are uninsured or underinsured? Are you content with the fact that the insurance companies and the drug companies are making huge profits, paying their CEOs exorbitant salaries? Are you happy with that? Are you happy that patients in America have to get on the phone and fight like crazy and deal with all kinds of bureaucrats in order to get the health care that they paid for in an incredibly complicated, broken system? So if you want to have a debate about health care, let's have that debate. I happen to believe that we should join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all people through a Medicare for all single-payer system. You got a better idea, bring it forward. But what we should agree upon is that you don't raise premiums by 100% or in some cases triple or quadruple. Let's take a deep breath. Let's extend these ACA subsidies for another year. Let's have that debate on health care. That's what the American people want. And with that, Mr. President, I would yield to the senator from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Michigan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise today in support of Ms. Baldwin's amendment on a clean one-year extension of the healthcare.gov credits. Since July, I've been really clear. If you want me to vote on a deal, it's got to do something to bring down the cost of health care because of the health care crisis that Republicans in this chamber precipitated back in July. Just to review the bidding. In July, the big, beautiful bill, which all of you voted for, most of you voted for, slashed Medicaid and slashed coverage for people on healthcare.gov. Now, all our hospitals, all our healthcare systems, all our nursing homes, everybody accepted that and started to plan. In response to that, the hospitals said, well, look, people are still going to come. They're still going to get in car accidents. They're still going to have heart attacks. They're just not going to be covered by health insurance. So we're going to have to charge the people with insurance even more money. So we are now at a point, this crisis that's been precipitated has led to the fact that every single American, everyone watching, everyone listening, is either facing losing their health insurance or paying more. And that includes people on private employer-provided insurance. When we take a step back and we look at all the people that are going to fall off health care, all the healthy young people who are not going to pay for health care anymore, it looks like across at least my state, every single person is looking at their prices doubling. Not just the people who are affected by the big, beautiful bill, but the bill payers, the people on private health insurance. Now, no one in this room would say that we are paying too little for health care right now. And I don't always agree with Senator Sanders, but I can say there is no more broken system in America than health care right now. It needs full rebuilding. We may disagree on some of the ways to do it, but the Republicans have offered zero plan, zero ideas. Hell, Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about how Republicans don't have a plan. Never thought I'd be agreeing with her. So today, all we're asking for is a clean one-year extension. No one says Obamacare is perfect. No one says a clean extension is perfect, but you have pushed people back into a corner. You have said we're going to pay for our tax cuts on the backs of everyday Americans by using their health care as the bail payer. So can we do a one-year extension, please, so that we can have some kind of conversation, a real conversation that the American people expect people of our stature to be having? Can we have that conversation over the next year, but not, in some cases, have people's health insurance go up by 600%? That is what you have precipitated. So to every American watching, whether you're on healthcare.gov or you're on private insurance, if you're getting those letters, if you're getting those notifications of an increase of your bill of $200, $500, $800 starting January 1, my peers on the other side of the aisle are the ones you should lay it at their feet. Because they have put us in this place, and if they vote tonight against this, it's because they don't give a crap about the cost of your health care. They don't give one single crap about it. So I hope my colleagues find it in their hearts to say, let's fix the system, fine, but at least for now give us a one-year extension so we can have a real conversation. With that, I yield back.
Mr. President.
Senator from Wisconsin.
I move to table Amendment 3947 for the purposes of offering my amendment to extend ACA tax credits for 1 year. That's Baldwin 3950. And I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsterbrooks. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Bennett.
So the roll call has been taken on a particular vote here. We'll see exactly what take place. More than likely, it will fail, and so that's what we got here. And the bottom line is this here: this idea of extending it for a year. Republicans don't want to do that, and that's what this all boils down to. Tyler, this is very simple. We can sit here and be performative. We can say, "Oh my God, we should extend it for a year." They just took it out. Mm-hmm. So the only way it gets extended for a year if a bunch of these broke ass white folks in these red states blow up their senators and say, "Hey, don't you vote against this?" We'll see what happens. I don't think for a second that they are going to change their mind. So okay, great. We'll have a vote we'll have a vote a month from now. And we know Republicans will be like, yeah, we're good. And here's the other thing. This is the crazy thing here, Tyler. Okay, let's just say you get 8 senators to go along, Republican senators to go along with Democrats. Them yahoos in the House not going to pass it. So guess where we're back at? Same place.
Literally at the same place. And I think even watching Senator Bernie Sanders in the middle of this, I think him being clear and standing strong on what many others are voting on. If you talk about healthcare, while a lot of senators are too busy calculating the polls, I think senators and leaders like Bernie Sanders are fighting for the basic principle of what we say we're fighting for. We're fighting for working people, for struggling families, for the federal workers, and how they will make it through. And though he's not a perfect, I don't think he's a perfect senator. I think what sets him apart is his consistency. He's been saying the same thing for decades, and people deserve dignity. They deserve health care. They deserve food. Like, food is not a luxury, and billionaires should not profit off of the people's pain. And I think we need more leaders like that to say enough is enough and stand strong on what we know. But like I said, what we see here is just routine, that people are playing politics with people's lives. Coming from a month from now, we're going to be right back here. We're having the same discussion. I think we just need a more universal system, as to talk about healthcare being a right, not a privilege, where we're not back in the same boat again.
Bottom line here, if you do not fight to the end, Omekongo, you're not going to win, especially when you are in the minority.
That's real talk. That's real talk. And it just gets so unfortunate, especially when I look at the voter turnout numbers, the way black folks came out, just so many people. We talked about the 90 million who didn't come out, in the last election. People were energized. They were motivated. And I can just hear just thousands upon thousands of people saying, well, what was the point? And even if they vote for this thing to extend for a year, that kind of takes it out of discussion until after the midterms, right? And so the Democrats could be continually using this for more and more fire going forward. I think that coming off of No Kings, coming off of the elections and the like, these Democrats need to find their way once again. And I'm just concerned. I'm just nervous when I see Alyssa Slotkin up there making it clear that she doesn't agree with Bernie Sanders on everything. Like, that's not obvious. But then out there like, oh yeah, and I'm sitting there agreeing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's like these guys keep wanting to try to play both sides. They keep trying to want to appeal to people who don't give a damn about them at the end of the day. These Republicans will do anything to get rid of Americans having any access to any semblance of health care that they have. They'll never go universal. We know that, but any other aspect of it, and of course with Trump talk at the top because he hates Obama, anything relating to Obama, thus Obamacare, this is who they are. So why not hold out? Why not fight? And yes, there would have been challenges with, travel over the problems over the weekend and the like, but this is what America needs right now. This was the one area of flex that the Democrats had, not being in the majority, and they absolutely blew it. And I don't know what they're going to do to get themselves back on track, or if they can get themselves back on track. I don't have a solution for them, Roland.
Naomi, the mistake that people make is by saying, oh, this was about politics. This was about Tuesday's election. This was about getting poll numbers up. No, it's literally about life and death. There are people in this country who starve due to food shortages. Reverend Bishop William Barber says some 30,000 Americans every single year. There are people who are going to die who don't have health care. So this is life and death. And so it's a mistake listening to these right-wing hacks and others who say, oh, this is all politics, this is all politics. Well, guess what? Politics is also life and death. And so what you want in politics are folks who are fighting and advocating on behalf of the things that matter to regular, ordinary people.
And I'm glad you said that, Roland, because I think too often we treat politics like a game. Like, you root for your team, I root for my team. But at the end of it, always at the end of it and at the center of it should always be the people that we are there to serve as politicians or their supporters or whomever, right? That these people aren't doing something that's great and mystical. Their job is literally to be there to serve people. And when they're not doing their job, we have to hold them accountable. Far too often, we treat this sort of as gamesmanship and not think about the real consequences. And what we have in this country is not a failure of resources. We have a failure of imagination. We have a moral failing because we have not served the least of us, right? And we've not done that for a variety of reasons. I mean, we didn't get here by accident, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We got here because we've treated our politics like just a game of power and brinksmanship instead of remembering what public service is all about. And while members of Congress and others are well paid and they get subsidized health coverage on our dime, and they've been collecting their checks every day that they've not been working or legislating or doing anything that they're in Washington to do, while they are able to sort of move through the world with platitudes, etc., the rest of us are the ones who kind of reap the whirlwind of the choices that they make or don't. And so I think we always have to remember that this is not just about power. This is not just about who can get what for them, their constituents or just themselves. This is about all of us. And the politics we have, unfortunately, are the politics that many of us signed up for, right? Many people signed up for politics that was not empathetic, for politics of mean, for politics that really try to stick it to certain communities of people, Black folks, Latino folks, Native folks, other indigenous communities, poor folks, right? We have had a politics that has said, all of you are unworthy of very basic needs. And when it comes home in the way that it has, I mean, I had the opportunity, the privilege really to serve people at a food bank this weekend. And the number of people that were showing up were, I'm sure, people who never expected to literally be going to a food bank to receive food. And that shows you that all of us could be in this position just because somebody in Washington or wherever has made a decision that our lives don't matter and that we don't count and we're not important enough for them to stay up at night and for them to do the hard thing and give some ground if it means we can all eat.
Well said. All right, folks. Speaking of that, the shutdown resulted in more than 1,700 flights being canceled. and more than 4,500 flights being delayed across the nation as the FAA imposed capacity limits at 40 major airports. Well, Donald Trump is turning up the pressure by now threatening air traffic controllers to get back to work. Trump's called them unpatriotic while praising those who stayed on the job as true patriots. He's recommending a bonus of $10,000 per person for distinguished service to our country and warning that anyone still out could lose pay. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is urging controllers to show up for work and promising to reward those who do. Well, isn't that interesting, Congo? Because they've been running people away. The number of people who are retiring because of these idiots has skyrocketed. They came in trying to blame DEI for the plane crash in Washington, D.C., and then, of course, when it was all of a sudden like, oh, it was white folks involved, we might go ahead and just change our mind on that. And so they have been lying over and over and over again and trying to put everything on former Department of Transportation Secretary Peter Buttigieg when it's like, nah, it's y'all. And so they're showing us exactly who they are. And also, Trump, you just can't just hand out $10,000 because any budget allocation got to be approved by the House first.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just Trump once again trying to run America like it's one of his corporations, just saying, oh, come back, I'll pay this, I'll do that, get back, you're traitors, and so on and so forth. That's not how it works. When people saw what was coming down the pipe with this potential shutdown, people started filling out, their sick day leaves that they were going to have. People started thinking about, shoot, I need to start thinking about another industry because I don't know when we're going to get back to work. And then, of course, the Russell Vought talking about we don't even know if we're going to get back pay. I'm sure that there are many people within that industry who are already gone and are just not coming back because they found some other type of work or are looking for some other type of work because we can be in another shutdown. If they figure this one out this week, we can be in another shutdown in January. So this idea that people are just going to come back because Trump ordered it, so it's just not how it works. And like you said, starting from its administration in the beginning, they were already pushing people out with all of their DEI nonsense. We're going to have the best people and all of that. And then we also know that when it comes to the type of training that these guys need, it takes months, sometimes years for certain types of positions to be able to be up there. You think people who have disabilities are going to want to come and work for this guy after they're saying you can't have some guy in a wheelchair doing the flight navigation stuff, like all of the ignorant and stupid stuff and disrespectful stuff that they said. And then on top of that, you start messing with their money by what you did with this shutdown. And then you have somebody who's incompetent at the top with Sean Duffy. Like, this is not an industry that if I did work in it, I would leave it and never come back because these guys have no appreciation for these individuals. And Trump just thinks he can wave a magic wand and make everything back the way it was before when there were already problems with it before. They made this worse. This is their doing, and they refuse to take responsibility for it. And I support the effort, these workers 1,000% with whatever they decide because they need our support more than anybody.
And let's just be real clear. They're running off very talented people, Tylee, in the Department of Defense, in Secretary Housing, Health and Human Services, all across the government. We literally have grossly incompetent people running the government, and they are destroying institutions because they're petty, they're petulant, and they're pathetic.
You said it perfectly, and I think what we see here is clearly a clear sign of tyranny. It's a direct attack on working people, many who are already underpaid and overworked. This is not leadership. He's really trying to pull the bully card on them and tell them to, as you said, like this is The Apprentice or something. And I think this is even a bigger call of a movement of saying why we need unions and why we fight for unions and labor organizers, because standing up for the people who are literally the working class people of this country, it's important that we stand with the air traffic controllers, because this is literally a direct attack on working class people.
Mm-hmm.
Niambi?
And I was going to say, I think part of this is just a fundamental misunderstanding of what air traffic controllers do, right? They keep us alive every time we get on the plane. So their jobs are actually super essential. And the fact that you would disrespect these people at all, I think, speaks to the ways that Donald Trump just doesn't see people who aren't wealthy like him as real human beings. Air traffic controllers aside, though, I mean, there are thousands of federal employees who do a job every day and do it well, who are professionals, who go to work. I see them in my classrooms. I know them in my personal life. I've been one at different points in my life, and take their jobs extremely seriously. And the way that they have just been disrespected and talked to, like these people have not worked their entire professional lives for something, because many of the people that are in federal service right now are in there because they actually do want to work for the public. These are people who could have made a lot more money in private industry, but forwent that because they believed in the mission of this country, and you had them turned out. So in the ways that, you know, we were just, this government was just taking this sort of hatchet to the entire governmental infrastructure with not a care for our health or safety or the sanctity of those employees and what they give every day and what they sacrifice, I think is a total insult. This man was born wealthy, born on third and feels like he hit a triple every day that he lives, and just doesn't recognize what it means to put together a career and a life in the ways that many federal employees, from military to air traffic controllers, have done every day. And I think it's a real sign of disrespect when the people who actually prop you up and make your executive agency run, make your executive branch of government run, can't even expect you to defend them and support them in what it is they do, because the mission of the president's office and all those executive agencies doesn't happen if it's not for regular working bureaucrats who do that job every day. And we say that like it's a dirty word, but bureaucrats are the unsung heroes of this country and have been for a very long time. And I think this administration has sort of helped to dim the view of those people. And let's be clear, some people we will never get back. Those experts are never coming back, right? Those people who could have chosen a career in public service will never do it because of this administration. So the damage is going to be there for a very long time.
Absolutely. All right, got to go to break. We come back. The thug-in-chief pardons more of his cronies. Yep, that actually happened. And why does truth matter in everything that we say and do? I'll have a response to Charlamagne's comments today on the Breakfast Club. That more on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Fun fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to cover the stores all across the country that matter to our people. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here, bottom left-hand corner. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Back in a moment.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Book bans, anti-intellectualism, and Trump's continued war on wisdom.
This is a coordinated backlash to progress. At the end of the day, conservatives realized that they couldn't win a debate on facts. They started using our language against us, right? Remember when we were all woke and the woke movement and all that kind of stuff? Now everything is anti-woke, right? When we were talking about including diversity, equity, inclusion, and higher education, now it's anti-DEI. All this are efforts to suppress the truth because truth empowers people.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Carl Payne pretended to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay. All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
We all know Donald Trump is a thug. And that thug enlisted other thugs to help him try to steal the 2020 election. They lied. They made stuff up. They did all of that. Now Donald Trump, now mind you, those white domestic terrorists who he loved on January 6th, he pardoned them. Now he's pardoning the folks who were part of the, quote, stop the steal, who themselves were actually trying to steal. 77 people he pardoned. The list includes Rudy Giuliani, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and several of the so-called alternate electors who attempted to certify Trump's loss as a win. Listen to this joke of a statement these fools sent out at the White House. They called the move, quote, an end to a grave national injustice and a step towards reconciliation. Really? So this is the same guy who let go of the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, the racists. Oh, but let's be real clear. It's on the federal level. This does not touch those who've been charged on the state level. And let's be real clear, Ome Congo, Sidney Powell, and others. Oh, these idiots have lost their law licenses. Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
See, Trump can give you a pardon on federal crimes. Guess what? That pardon, you can't get your law license back in California or in Colorado or in Washington, D.C. And so these idiots chose to give up their entire livelihood for that con man. And so all he's doing right here is showing us how much of a thug he is with his latest pardons.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I was watching an interview with Ice-T over the weekend, and he said that Trump has more friends in jail than he does. And I'm like, wow, that really says a lot. I mean, with this guy, he is the master of mob-like tactics. And what he's really doing is that he's also showing other people going forward that if they represent him in any way, shape, or form and stick up for him in some way, shape, or form, they will get a pardon. What's like Ken Martin's mindset that he says, he says, no MAGA left behind, his pardon attorney, whatever his title is, no MAGA left behind. That's their mindset. I look at if the guy who went at Hakeem Jeffries, gets convicted, they'll probably pardon him as well. This is who they are. And this is who they are. But you're absolutely right, Roland. There are other consequences that go beyond whether Trump pardons you or not, or whether you don't go to jail or not. You can be disbarred. You can lose your medical license. You can have trouble finding jobs if you don't have the skills to be able to be on some of these news networks like a Fox, or these networks, it's not news, like Fox, and look good for the cameras. You're not going to be able to find work. And people need to be mindful of it. And I believe that's why people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are starting to slowly distance themselves from MAGA, even though the media needs to hold her more accountable for her actions as well, because they realize that riding this Trump bandwagon can only get you so far. And so, yeah, Rudy Giuliani, fine, you got pardoned, but you can't practice law anymore. So there are so many situations and stories. What about the guy who he said grab him in the P word to, right? Bush or something? Where's his career? Like, so many people that attach themselves to him in the long run, they end up getting destroyed. And that's the greater lesson that people should know who enter Trump's orbit, because they get so his former fixer, Michael Cohen, right? Because they get so caught up in the lure of it, but they don't realize that he only gives a damn about himself. And some of them don't realize it until it's too late.
It's real simple, Tyler. This corrupt thug, he has pardoned a whole bunch of people who are thugs, who are corrupt, who have been found guilty by juries, by judges of fraud. So guess what? Donald Trump is happy. He's right at home with this rogues list of individuals.
Absolutely. And I think as I think about this, I hold space and think about the many black folks who continue to fill prisons for nonviolent offenses, minor mistakes, and basic system inequalities, while Trump here just hands out pardons to those who really try to overthrow our government and our democracy. And I think this just shows the two-tier system that we talk about. Like, it's one for them and it's one for us. And it's the same system that punishes black protesters and organizers for marching for justice, while Trump now just gives out pardons to insurrectionists for breaking it. And so I think it just makes it more clear of the system that we talk about, the two-tier system. And like I said, there's folks that are sitting behind bars who didn't do nothing, and yet here we are, folks that have tried to overthrow our government is getting a pass in a slap on the wrist. So it's very frustrating to see. But like I said, I think it shows folks where folks' priorities are.
Well, I'm reading a couple of items here, so give me 1 second. Bottom line here, he's a crook, Niambi. He's a thug. He's corrupt. He's fraudulent. And so he is right at home with the people who are themselves convicted of fraud.
Oh, absolutely. Which was why I thought Doge was so hilarious, talking about they're going to go after waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm like, it's in the White House. You don't have to look far. I mean, listen, this man is collecting people's reputations and professions like infinity stones. And it's always interesting to me how quickly people are willing to sacrifice themselves for this man. He comes out unscathed, it seems like, every single time, yet everybody else is reaping the whirlwind of being his henchmen and are happy to do it, it seems. I mean, you look at a person like a Rudy Giuliani who 20 years ago, right, could do no wrong. He was America's mayor, riding high after, the tragedy of September 11th and what he was able to do in that city. But even before that, his career as a prosecutor, to then find himself under investigation by some of those same offices. Right. I mean, this is how quickly that tide can turn. And I think something you rightly pointed out, Roland, is that none of these people are safe from state charges. There is no office you can go back to, restore your reputation. Your professional career is gone. No one in your profession takes you seriously. And what do you have left? Because many of these people are not young even. Right? They don't have more life ahead of them than they do behind them, unfortunately. So what does the rest of their life look like? Now, I'm not crying them any rivers. I don't think any of them are probably hurting financially or whatever. I can't speak on their finances, but I mean, you look around and all that's left are ashes because you burned your career, your reputation, your morality. At the altar of this man who cares no more about you, because once you cease being useful to Donald Trump, he's done with you. And all of these people are done, essentially. This was their parting gift, this pardon.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And so, listen, the thugs are happy because one of their own is sitting in the Oval Office. All right, going to a break. We come back. I have told y'all these folks want to steal as many elections as possible. They want to steal the 2026 midterms. They want to steal the 2028 presidential election. And the Supreme Court has decided to hear a case out of out of Mississippi that could have massive implications when it comes to mail-in voting. I will explain when we come back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Life with Dr. Jackie. We're continuing our series of putting in the work, a chef's journey. Are you an aspiring chef? Someone who already has a business, trying to figure out what your next steps will be, who to talk to, and how to get there? Well, on this week's show, our great guest and wonderful chef will talk to you about what it means to discover your purpose, your why of being in the kitchen, and then knowing how to put a business together.
The menu controls everything. The menu determines everything. But the business plan is where you have to go back to.
When you get into the business, at the end of the day, social media and TV, all of that stuff is cool, but you still have to run a business. So you still have to be in relationship with people.
That's all next on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The United States is the most dangerous place for a woman to give birth among all industrialized nations on the planet. Think about that for a second. That's not all. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in this country during childbirth than white women.
These healthcare systems are inherently racist. There are a lot of white supremacist ideas and mythologies around black women's bodies, even black people, that we experience painless, right?
Activist, organizer, and fearless freedom fighter Monifa Akinwole Bandele from Moms Rising joins us and tells us this shocking phenomenon, like so much else, is rooted in unadulterated racism. And that's just one of her fights. Monifa Bandele on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
Michael McMillan, President and CEO of the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
How many times have I told y'all? The right does not want you to vote. They don't want you to vote with ballot drop boxes. They don't want you to vote absentee. They don't want you to vote early. They don't want you to vote by mail. And now, this right-wing Supreme Court has chosen to take up a case out of Mississippi that deals with the very issue of mail-in balloting. Yeah, this is real. They are taking up a lawsuit to decide whether states can keep counting mail ballots that arrive after Election Day, a process Donald Trump has loudly condemned. The case stems from Mississippi, where Trump-appointed judges ruled the state's post-Election Day ballot law violates a federal statute. 18 states and D.C. currently allow late arriving ballots if they are postmarked by Election Day, including battlegrounds like Nevada and places like Oregon and Colorado. A ruling is expected by June, just months before the 2026 midterms, and it could reshape how millions of votes are counted. Now, remember, I told y'all, Paul Weyrich, one of the founders of the Moral Majority, founder of the Heritage Foundation, he gave a speech in Dallas in 1981 where he made it clear where they stand when it comes to everyone voting.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
See, Trump is still pissed off because in 2016, the judges in Pennsylvania allowed those ballots to be counted. In fact, these people are so awful, Niambi, that they don't give a damn if military votes come in late. They're like, yeah, don't even count them as well. Their goal is very simple. If we could freeze out as many people as possible, we're a better shot at winning. Republicans have been on record as saying that if fewer people vote, we win.
Mississippi as well as many other places, because we know what this has done, what mail-in ballots have done to bringing more people into the electoral process, especially folks who live in rural communities. We know what it does for indigenous folks who live in reservations, right? The fact that they don't have to travel as far, they don't have to wait in those long lines. It makes it a more attractive option to participate. Well, they know if they take this away, those people are less likely to show up. That's what the research shows. That's what they know. And that's what they've been banking on for a really long time, because they know that their share of the national voting population is less than, say, people who are more left-leaning. I'm not going to say necessarily Democrat. And so if they can push out low propensity voters, including some of their own, right? There are going to be people who would vote for Republicans otherwise if they had this means available to them. They're okay giving up those few if they can give up the many that are going to be a challenge to them, not just in Mississippi, but Mississippi and other states like it. And so they know exactly what they're doing. They know why wait times are disproportionate in our communities. They know why redrawing the maps in the on years, but also now in these mid years, these off years are so essential to them being able to hold on to national prominence and state level majorities. So it's not surprising to me that they would come for mail-in ballots. I'm not surprised that the Supreme Court is going to hear this case either, because I think the Supreme Court has made it very clear to us in so many ways that they don't see voting as a right. And they certainly don't see it as something that should be preserved or expanded for the vast majority of eligible American voters.
I'm telling you, I need people to understand. They just don't oppose, Tylik, the votes being cast or the votes being counted post, because they say, 3 to 5 days after the election. No. What they meant by the law is that you only vote on election day. Okay, that's their particular argument. Okay, but they don't even want that. They want to get rid of mail-in voting.
They know our power, and I think they're terrified of it. But we know that we've already been through poll taxes, we've been through literacy tests, intimidation, and yet here we are. And I think every year it's a new way of trying to figure out how to keep us from the poll. But I think that every law, every policy, and every court case that is designed to send a message to restrict voting, it's really a clear sign that they're fearful. They're fearful about us, and I think it is an even bigger sign to say that every ballot we cast, every vote you take, is a form of resistance. And I think it shows why it's so important to show up. They're working overtime to make sure that you can't vote. And I think even if you look at Mississippi, their black population, I think, is what 38% or so, 40%. They continue to carry the backbone of Mississippi, and so I think they're just trying to turn it really, really red. But I think our resistance is still showing up.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy to me, Ome Congo, that people don't understand what's at play here. These folks, they do not want more Americans voting next year. They do not want it. They will put up every single roadblock and barrier to do so. And now they have a Supreme Court who will sit here and rubber stamp as much of their agenda as possible.
Yeah, they don't want us voting, just like they don't want folks to have health care. And we have to understand, as you talk about on the show regularly, that this is a full-on assault on voting rights in the United States. And they are doing it from every single way they can do it, whether we're talking about the mail-in ballots, whether we're talking about redistricting, whether we're talking about the mass purges that they have on voter rolls. This is why I often say, particularly with the last election, the elections were free, but they weren't fair. I mean, you've had Palace on your show who talked about all of these different voter suppression efforts cost Kamala anywhere around 3 million votes. I mean, there are so many stories out there about voter suppression efforts. And we know, I mean, the Honorable John Lewis was protesting John Roberts' nomination to the Supreme Court way back in the day because of his anti-voting rights mindset. And so the sooner people get on the good foot as it relates to this, we can make some more progress. When you see what Gavin Newsom is doing, that's powerful. Many of these elections that were won in Virginia and New Jersey and other places, we're going to need, the governors to be able to make sure that their elections are running freely and fairly as well. You also have these voting machine companies that are being bought by people who are Republican or MAGA adjacent. And so we have to understand that every single level, it is being attacked. And that means at every single level, people need to be continuing to do what they're doing. The work that we're doing and working with Black Voters Matter, the list goes on and on. We can never let up. Every single day, they are going to try a new way to make sure that people can't vote. And that clip that you played from 1981, Roland, I never saw that, but people need to see that regularly as well, because just like abortion, just like with a woman's right to choose, when Roe v. Wade was passed way back when, every single year since it was passed, they fought. They would march down in the Washington Monument or whatever. If there was 10 people, they never give up. And they are never going to give up on this voting right. And that clip is an example of what they're doing today. And so we have to continue this fight, because if not, they're already working to sabotage the 2026 elections. Lastly, Roland, this is a guy in Trump at Mar-a-Lago who plays videos for his staff to watch that says he won in 2020. There's like music videos that they got to watch that he even won then. They're trying to do everything to not only suppress votes and win future votes, but even claim the votes and elections that they lost in the past. It's insane, but we can't get up the pressure.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I just need people to understand what is at play here. What these people want to do is they want to shut down all voting. That's what they want. They don't want us voting. It's pure and simple. They don't want us voting. And they will do everything possible, everything in their arsenal to stop us from voting.
That's right.
Going to a break. We come back. Donald Trump continues the erasure of Black people. This time, World War II soldiers. I'll explain next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Hey, I'm Mark Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League, and I'm watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
I told y'all these people are trying to defund Black America. I told y'all these people don't give a damn about our history. Now a complaint from the right-wing think tank, the Heritage Foundation, you know, the people behind Project 2025, that has led to the removal of a memorial honoring African-American soldiers who died in World War II from a cemetery in the Netherlands. Several Dutch newspapers have reported that two panels highlighting the contributions of Black soldiers were removed from the American War Cemetery in Margraten, Limburg. This cemetery is the only American military cemetery in the Netherlands, housing the remains of 8,288 soldiers. The panels have been added in 2024. One panel commemorated the 1 million African Americans who volunteered for service during World War II, while the second panel was dedicated to engineer George H. Pruitt, who died in 1945 while trying to rescue a fellow soldier who had fallen into a river. The Heritage Foundation accused the American Battle Monuments Commission of failing to support Trump's crackdown on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. 11 of the 15 parties in Limburg's assembly have signed a letter requesting that the provincial government investigate the possibility of replacing the plaques. This is what we keep talking about here, Congo. These people don't give a damn about Black people or Black history. They are hateful. They are spiteful. They're despicable, and they must be voted out every chance. And if you want to sit here and you want to call me a Democratic shield, you want to say, "Oh man, I'm buck dancing with Schumer and Jeffries, and oh, you stand with the Democrats." These hateful MAGA people want to completely erase black people from American history. They don't want people across the world to know that those black soldiers who gave their lives during Jim Crow America, they don't want Americans to know that black newspapers were writing about segregation in the armed forces, and the federal government threatened to charge black newspapers with treason by saying they were upsetting the balance of the armed forces because they were writing about segregation. That's what these people do not want.
You are absolutely right. And not only do they not want our history taught in any way, shape, or form, they also magnify and glorify anything that's related to white, cisgendered, Christian manhood. This is what Pete Hegseth is all about. This is why he doesn't want any press, they're reporting and following up on what they want to do. And this is happening all across the country, particularly with our military. The fact that black people in this country, Malcolm Nance talks about this all of the time, have fought in every war for promises that were never fully kept in every way, shape, or form, and the blood and sacrifice that we have shed in this country, while at the same time that they are doing this, Roland, putting up Albert Pike Confederate statues back up in Washington, D.C., putting up Confederate statues at the Arlington National Cemetery that's supposed to honor American war heroes. So at the same time that they are erasing our contributions to this country by being in these wars, they are also propping up the Confederacy once again. This country honors losers in ways like I have never seen in any other place, but they want that South shall rise again mentality. They want that Confederate mindset. It was Trump's people that ran a Confederate flag through the Capitol for the first time ever in America's history. So this is a double-edged sword right now. They are actively working, and again, this is a story that I've heard nowhere today until we're talking about it tonight, because a lot of these media outlets don't care, or they're MAGA adjacent themselves, but they want to completely erase our history and contributions from everything from military to science to education to college names and universities, while at the same time propping up some of the most racist people in American history. From Marvin E. Lee, look at how they're renaming the bases, how they remove the names of black people, as well as LGBTQ activists like Harvey Milk from the back and the like. This is their plan. And until we have to continue to stand up in the same way we fought to make sure that Jackie Robinson's name was honored correctly, and I wouldn't be surprised if they took it off again, they are not going to stop. They're going to keep doing this, and we need to keep speaking out. Members of the military, retired people as well. We have to fight for our history. This is not the first time we've had to do it, but we have to make sure that we don't get lazy about it, thinking that it's all good, because they are intentionally, with laser-like precision. Who would even be thinking of this, Roland? A Netherlands memorial? It's ridiculous.
Easy. They are going through Niambi. They are going through everything in the federal government, and all they're looking for, black, Latino, Asian. Look, that's what they're doing. These people are sick, deranged, but they want whiteness to prevail.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the story they want to tell is that there was nothing that was ever done in this country that was worth anything that wasn't done by a white person, more specifically a white man. And when you think about the fact that there were 1 million black soldiers all over that theater in Europe, that these people who were being honored died there, and that these panels were there so that we would remember the fact that these people sacrificed their lives halfway across the world for people that they didn't know, because these people were facing, extermination, quite frankly, right? This is World War II. We're talking about Jewish people here. And these panels were removed without any official explanation, with no consideration for anything other than the fact that we don't want to address what people were doing that were not white at any point in our history. I mean, this is whitewashing on a scale that we have not seen, right, since that sort of post-Civil War and segregationist period, right, when you had the sort of Great Redemption, right? We got all of these Confederate monuments going up, as Omakongo talks about, but all these ways of rewriting history, which makes it seem like black people were never anything but supplicants. All we did was bend and scrape and beg instead of being active participants, not just in our freedom, but the freedom of other people. people, the freedom of people around the world, not just at home. And so, this is a very pernicious way to go after a people, is to go for their history. This is what Carter G. Woodson reminded us about in The Miseducation of the Negro, is to make us believe we've contributed nothing and to make us feel like we've contributed nothing, and therefore we are not people worthy of respect. So I am not surprised that they've done this, but as Omekongo rightly pointed out, they did this in another country with little fanfare, little attention, with the hopes that it would get by, because who's paying attention to what's happening, half a world away? But they're also doing it at home. So, it's not like this is not on message for this administration.
Yep, they are hateful people, and Tyler, it's 3 more years of this, and they're going to do all they can to gut Black America. They want to defund Black America, and they absolutely want to destroy our story and our contributions.
Exactly. And I think, when monuments are removed and when history books are being whitewashed and our stories are being silenced, it's not about heritage preservation. It's literally about erasure. And I think this is an attempt to remove us and to remove our struggles to make them invisible. And I think that is all of the reason why places like this and Black media is not just optional. It's essential to how we inform our communities, how we keep folks abreast on what's happening. Because as I said before, no other mainstream media has covered this. And I think that is the importance of having places like this show to really highlight what's happening in our communities. And I think, that the Heritage Foundation's attempt to do this is literally because they feel uncomfortable about all of our excellence. But I think we owe every soldier who never came home to keep their stories alive, because their memory is the resistance. Us telling their story is the resistance, and our history is our resistance. And I think their stories need to be told, and we have to do all we can to continue to spread this message and to share what's happening. Because like I said before, when it's halfway across the world, they don't want us to think about it. But that is the importance of Black owned media and us telling our own stories.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, folks, gotta go to a break. We come back. Charlemagne, Breakfast Club, addressed the segment that we did last week regarding the shutdown. I have some comments I'll share next, right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Brain and Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do the work that we do. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. Use that for credit cards as well. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Check some money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 70196. Back in a moment.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The United States is the most dangerous place for a woman to give birth among all industrialized nations on the planet. Think about that for a second. That's not all. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in this country during childbirth than white women.
These healthcare systems are inherently racist. There are a lot of white supremacist ideas and mythologies around Black women's bodies, even Black people, that we experience pain less, right?
Activist, organizer, and fearless freedom fighter Monifa Akinwole Bandele from Moms Rising joins us and tells us this shocking phenomenon, like so much else, is rooted in unadulterated racism. And that's just one of her fights. Monifa Bandele on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Godfrey, the funniest dude on the planet. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, I'm a graduate of Jack Yates High School, Magnet School of Communications in Houston, Texas. And I chose to go there when I was 14 years old. And I wrote columns for our school paper. So I've had people responding to things that I have said that they disagree with since I was 17 years old. I go to Texas A&M. I remember one day I came home and my brother said, "Man, what you do?" I said, "What you talking about?" Our answering machine was filled with all these vile messages from Aggies who were mad because of a column that I wrote in the school paper, The Battalion, chastising and lambasting the Texas Aggie band for playing Dixie at halftime. When I interned and worked at the Bryan College Station Eagle, I wrote opinion pieces. Didn't make some folks happy. I remember when I worked at the Houston Defender in 1990, and I wrote an editorial criticizing the United Negro College Fund's campaign commercials, and William Gray, former congressman, my alpha brother. Matter of fact, I think he was in Congress. He was in Congress, but he used to. Well, maybe he had the UNCF. I can't remember. Anyway, writes a letter mad with what I wrote. For 10 years, I served as a nationally syndicated columnist for Creator Syndicate. And so I've had pieces run all across the world. So don't think for a second that I'm not used to people taking exception to something that I say or that I write. Today on The Breakfast Club, Charlemagne took exception to a segment we did last week where two panelists said that he provides misinformation. And so he made a whole bunch of comments, some personal attacks. And let me be real clear. I don't give a damn what you say about my weight. I don't give a damn what you say about my neck. I don't give a damn what you say about my hairline. I don't give a damn about none of that. And the reason I don't give a damn about none of that, because none of that shit matters. See, I am speaking to and addressing and confronting larger issues at play that have a profound and significant impact on our community. And see, I'm absolutely unbothered if someone says, "Oh, you're a Democrat shield, you doing this, that, and the other for the Democrats." No, because see, I'm real clear. I stand up for black people. I stand up for black people on the local level, the state level, the national level, international level. I fight on behalf of black people. I've worked in black-owned media, not black-targeted media. iHeartRadio owns The Breakfast Club. That's black-targeted. That's not black-owned. So I've worked on black-owned media since 1990. That's 35 years. I'll be 57 on Friday. That's 35 years. See, when I was at CNN, I was with TV One. I was with WVON Radio in Chicago. And then later during the Tom Joyner Morning Show. So when you ride for black people, then you are clear in what your focus, your mission, and your agenda is. And you see, for me, my mission is I stand on truth and facts. Max Robinson, the first black network news anchor, ABC, was dying of AIDS. In 1988, he was addressing some Howard University students and alumni. And he said to them, "Never ever lose your integrity or your credibility Because in the end, that's all you got. Chris Metzler, God rest his soul. Chris was a black Republican, black conservative. And Chris and I used to always laugh and talk because a lot of these Republicans were mad. Chris, I see you go on Roland's show, and I don't understand. When you go on Roland's show, he don't yell at you. He don't interrupt you. Chris said, because I don't lie like y'all. He said, you fools come on Roland's show lying, and I ain't stupid. He said, if I come on Roland's show and I start lying, he gonna jack me up too. Why? Because I operate in facts. I believe that what our people, not just our people, meaning really all people, what our people need are relevant, factual, credible sources of information that they can trust explicitly. In fact, that's interesting. I was going through a few text messages. Between Charlamagne and I over the years. September 1st, 2024. I always go hard for the truth and facts, whether white or black. And this is why I tell black folks to pick credible black-owned media. I simply can't sacrifice the truth for anyone. I've been in journalism since I was 14. Nothing has changed in 41 years. I also said, I'm not hard on us, I'm hard on facts. And what I don't like is when people spew things that are not factual and then others take it to believe it is true. That has been the case for my entire career. I also said, I don't argue online. As a journalist, I provide facts. You see, we all can have opinions. But even when the context of a debate and one is offering their opinion, it needs to be a factual opinion. It needs to be one that's rooted in truth. Because the general public does not necessarily distinguish between who's a journalist and who's not. Who's a journalist and who's a DJ. Who's a journalist, who's a shock jock. Who's a journalist and who's a radio host. Who's a journalist, who's a podcaster. Who's a journalist and who has a digital show. Because see, the public just sees all media. But there are clear distinctions in terms of our roles and responsibilities. And I thought about that when I saw, because I landed in Bermuda, and all these text messages and whatever, and people hit me up, said, oh, did you see it? No, I didn't. I was literally in the air. And then as folks would hit me up, and I got phone calls from people, and I was quite amused by it all, because it's not like it's new to anyone where I stand on facts. In fact, as I was thinking about it, and people were like, man, you should say this, you should respond this, you should respond this, you should respond this. I said, and I thought about it, no, I'm not going to do any of that. Then there were people who were like, oh, he should come on your show. You should go on his show. I thought about, because all back and forth, and, there was stuff, he begs to come on the Breakfast Club, which is not true. Sent 2 texts this year, one last year, one 2023. And when I go to New York, I actually text about 10 people, 10 shows. So it could be the Breakfast Club, it could be Ebro, it could be Sway, it could be John Fusil Gang. It could be people at SiriusXM. So let's just be real clear, y'all. I do media all over. I don't beg anybody's show to come on. I was on Ricky Smiley's show and Dee Dee's show last week. So ain't no begging. I literally tell people, hey, I'm coming to town. So there you go. Just like people do the same thing to me. So as I was sitting here watching people say what should happen and y'all should do this and that, I actually thought about this very issue of when I went on the Breakfast Club 3 years ago. Listen. Look, I got Republicans who don't want to come on my show because I don't let them lie. And so and that's why I get upset when I watch a lot of these shows and folks lie. So, for instance, when sorry-ass Bill Maher allowed that woman the other day to lie on Kamala Harris, and then he didn't correct her when she talked about, she sent all these men and women to prison for weed,
Breakfast Club, too.
And Breakfast Club. And then Bill Maher sitting there with his pothead self, don't say a word. I don't let folk lie, because when someone lies, if they're listening to this show and a lie is told and you say nothing, for me, the public goes, well, Angela and Envy and Charlamagne didn't say nothing, so what they said must have been true.
Validated. No. Because Van Jones was on the panel. He didn't say nothing.
Well, no. What he did was, he didn't correct him. And I was like, Van should have said, wait a minute. What you just said is a flat-out lie. You don't let lies stand. And so that's why, and I'll tell him, I'll let you finish, but what you're not going to do is sit here and lie. And I just sit there and just nod and let you continue. Because the public needs to have enough faith in us that we have enough information. And the moment you lie, we say, wait a minute, stop. That's not true. Or you got to prove that. You're not just going to throw something out there. And so that's why this microphone cameras are important, because we have to have so much trust in it and have care with it that we refuse to let anybody lie in our face, because the audience goes, well, that must be true. So they now run with that lie, and now it's harder to bring it back in as opposed to say, stop. What you just said is simply incorrect.
Well, I need you to give us some facts now, because I know people will see this and they'll be like, well, Kamala Harris did lock up a whole bunch of people for weed in California.
Well, first of all, I actually brought on a brother who went through the whole record. The number of prosecutions in San Francisco declined from the previous DA when she became DA. 2, they created alternative programs for individuals who had who were arrested for weed. Second of all, the number of people in California went to prison, those numbers went down. So again, when people say, well, just what you said, she locked a whole lot of people up. How many? No, how many?
Yeah, they can't know anyone.
No. But you just said she locked a lot of people. How many?
Oh, I didn't say that. I was quoting what people say.
No. You quoted folks who did not have accurate information. So even that's
why I asked you.
No. But here's the deal. So even when we say, some people say, I don't even reference lies. Because what I'm now doing is I'm now weaponizing the lie.
Right.
So even
the corrected, you don't reference it?
Huh?
Even the corrected, you don't reference it?
No. It's not a question of corrected. What I'm not going to do is, some people say she locked up a lot of people. First of all, let's break that statement down. What does it even mean? What's a lot? Okay? If she locked up 5,000, well, how many were locked up before her? Was it 10,000? So 10,000 locked up before her, and then she locked up 5,000. That's a decrease.
Correct.
So, again, that has to be stated. Second of all, does the Attorney General lock people up? Yes. Or is it local DAs? See, so again, I don't just go, some people. I hate that phrase.
Gotcha.
Because even stating that, it has to be rooted in fact. And that's why I don't simply do that any time. I force people to have to defend a statement and say, no, you need to provide evidence to back that up. And so what if somebody says, well, 5,000 was too many? Okay, but if it was 10,000 and she came in and changed the policy and then it was cut in half, do you not give credit to cutting it in half?
Correct.
Where I come from, you actually do. It's called context. And the problem that we have, especially with too many of these damn gossip blogs and these people who are aggregators, who all they do is repeat something else, somebody else write, They don't have any context. They provide no nuance. They provide no factual information. They don't ask the second question too often. As Kathy Hughes said, they ain't deeper than mustard on a hot dog. See, I hope y'all understood what I was laying out there. It's not enough to say, well, I'm just asking questions. But if your question is rooted in wrong information, then you've actually weaponized the wrong information. And now it goes out to the public. Let me, I want people to understand. I really need you to understand this. When you have a microphone, and it could be this microphone I'm wearing, it could be anything. It could be written word, it could be your social media, it could be anything. There are people who are going to entrust in you, even if they never even talk to you, that he gonna give me the right information. So if you, because they are thinking, well, wait a minute, you bigger, you more knowledgeable, you know more things than I do, so therefore, I'm trusting that what you are saying to me is correct. So what then happens is, you say something, or a guest says something that's not correct, and then it's not corrected, so therefore the person listening goes, that must be right. So they then take what you just said or heard and go repeat it to somebody else, and they say, well, I heard it on the Breakfast Club, I heard it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, I heard it on Native Land Pod, I heard it on Contraband Camp, I heard it. Y'all see how that happens? So they are assigning credibility to you based upon what they heard, which is why those of us sitting behind the mic or the keyboard must be mindful of what comes into our minds, process, comes out of our mouth, and then spoken into the microphone, because once it hits that microphone, you can no longer control it. You can't control it. So for me, when I hit it, I want you to have clarity. I don't want to come back to say, I should have explained it better. And again, I just want people to understand. See, this is not, man, you attacking them. No, that's not what it is. It is an absolute pursuit of truth, which is how I define myself as a journalist. Because I have too much respect for this microphone, and I have too much respect for the audience, to be given something that's half correct. And again, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm just going to give y'all an example. Today, again, in that 20-minute discussion that Charlamagne had, and again, this is not tearing down. I'm just stating what happens when a basic statement is made, and maybe you're not thinking about what you're saying that's actually wrong. Charlamagne was quoting Bishop William Barber, talking about the big ugly bill. And he said when the bill passed, quote, Democrats failed to expand the tax credits. I want y'all to hear what I just said. Charlamagne said Democrats failed to expand the tax credits. Here's the problem. They didn't have the power. Republicans control the House. They control whether a bill comes to the floor. They have the votes. Republicans control the Senate. Now, some of y'all watching right now, see, I'm about to explain to y'all politics. Some of y'all watching right now are going, well, I don't understand. They needed 8 Democrats to break the filibuster. Yes, because the big ugly bill was passed through a process called reconciliation. Uh-oh. The reconciliation process does not require 60 votes. The reconciliation process only requires a simple majority. Do y'all know how the Affordable Care Act got passed? Through reconciliation. Yeah. See, these are the arcane things in politics that I don't expect the average person to know. My job is to explain to the people these arcane things and to make it simple for them. So there are some bills that pass the Senate by unanimous consent, meaning I move they pass it by unanimous consent. Okay, empty chamber. It's a post office, whatever. So remember that Charlie Kirk, day? That's how that thing was passed. People like, well, Democrats didn't vote on it. Weren't even in the chamber. Should have been one objecting. Rand Paul did that when it came to the June. See, y'all got to remember, Juneteenth. Senator Rand Paul, the reason Juneteenth didn't become federal law when Trump was there the first time is because Senator Rand Paul objected to it being passed by unanimous consent. So you can have one or two senators in the entire chamber, and they could pass a bill by unanimous consent and don't require all 100 showing up. That's one way you pass a bill. Another way you pass a bill is the reconciliation process, which has some rules there, what you can and cannot do. And the Senate parliamentarian has the rule on it. That's literally what the big ugly bill, how it was passed. By simple majority. The continuing resolution, that required 60 votes. Those are details. Those are nuances. But I still believe they have to be explained. So it's incorrect for Charlamagne to say, quote, Democrats failed to expand the tax credits. How could they fail to expand it when they didn't have the power? Republicans did. So should the statement have actually said the GOP cut the subsidies? The GOP cut the tax credits. See, y'all missed that. Y'all missed that. I want to walk y'all through very basic understanding language. If the phrase is Democrats failed to expand the tax credits, that means that you are assigning blame for the tax credits expiring on the Democrats because they failed to expand the tax credits. But if the language is the GOP cut the tax credits, that's the appropriate language. Why? Because they control the House, control the Senate, control the White House. So just that one line right there completely changes the context of the conversation. Which is why words matter, why language matters, and why we can't be reckless or lazy with how we construct words, because you can change the context of a discussion by changing the words. And so what my desire is very simple. My desire is for everybody in Black America. My desire is those of us on radio, on television, on digital, to make it our mission to never be ambiguous with our people. When I was on the Tom Jordan Morning Show, I forgot where it could have been. It could have been. I don't know where it was. And his mother came up to me. I need y'all to hear this. His mother came up to me, and she said, "Mr. Martin, it's good to meet you. My baby will not let me drop her off at school until she finishes your segment." I said, "Really?" The young girl was standing right there. I said, "Really?" She says, "Yes." Her mama said, if we get to school and you not done, she make me go around the block to finish your segment. I said, oh my God, I appreciate that. So on Monday, I go on the air. I said, Tom, man, I met this mother and her 12-year-old daughter. I told the story. Tom said he loved it. Y'all got an email. The email said, Mr. Martin, thanks for the shout out, but I'm 11. I love that. I said the young girl was 12, but she was actually 11. She corrected me on her age. That's called a fact. Now, it's not necessarily consequential in terms of the grand scheme of things, but it's still a fact. But here's why that story is so important, because it ain't about the age. It's about the fact that this young girl, it was 11 years old, is in the car with her mama. And this 11-year-old girl was so intently focused on the segment that I had and the people that I was interviewing, that this young girl would not get out of the car until I was done. Y'all, that 11-year-old girl right now is in her early 20s. That 11-year-old girl who was listening to the Tom Joyner Morning Show segment, that little young girl was learning, was listening. And so I could not be careless with what I was saying. I could not fully explain and provide the context of what I was saying, because I wasn't just talking to her mama. I wasn't just talking to her dad. I was talking to her and more like her. So I will never apologize for being fixated on truth. Because what we must understand is that unbeknownst to us, there is a young girl, there's a young boy, there's somebody who's 7, 8, 9, 12, 15, 18, 25, 32, 40, 47, 54, 65, 70, 80, 90, who's watching and listening. And what we have to say to them and how we say it matters. It's not for the cheap laugh. It's not to mock. But when you understand how precious information is, it was Kathy Hughes who coined the phrase, information is power. But disinformation, misinformation, lack of full information also has negative consequences. So the challenge for all of us should not be getting myself so upset. So I was misinforming. Now hold on, let me hear what they had to say. Hold on, let me go back and examine what I said. Oh, you know what? I wasn't fully clear. I didn't fully explain. Because what we have to recognize is there's no assumption that a brother or a sister listening will come back and listen to the clarification. There's no assumption that they will come back and hear the correction of the error. Our responsibility is to get it right. And I'm going to close with this. a month before she died, they feted Dr. Maya Angelou at the National Portrait Gallery. We covered it at the Smithsonian Museum of African Art. They threw a birthday party. Genevieve Cole threw a birthday party. We were all there, and Valerie Simpson sang, and Ambassador Andrew Young spoke, and I went to go interview Dr. Angelou. And I said something to her. I said, you know, my brother's a teacher. Two of my sister's teachers. A sister was a teacher's aide. I'm the only one in my family who's never taught. And she said, no, you teach. She said, I watch you. You teach when you're on television. And it blew me away. I'll find that clip. We're going to play it. But ever since then, I've been even more vigilant in what I had to say and how I said it and explain to our people. I love when Joe Madison said, put it where the ghost can get it. Mark Thompson's show is called Make It Plain. Our job is to make this thing so plain and so clear, so crystal clear, that our people understand what's at stake. And there's no room, whether we are high and big or low and small, that it is not our primary mission and objective is to be truthful, clear, concise, and unapologetic about facts. And that is something that I will never, ever apologize for, because our people should trust the voices that are coming into their cars, their living rooms, their homes, their offices every day and every night. And that will always be the mission of Roland Martin Unfiltered and Black Star Network and me personally. And y'all already know what my motto is as a journalist my entire career. If you do good, I'm going to talk about you. If you do bad, I'm going to talk about you. At the end of the day, I'm going to talk about you. It ain't about friends, it's about facts. Because our people deserve credible, high quality, factual mediums. And that's all I got to say on this. Real quick, panel, you're there. Your perspective again on why. And matter of fact, I'm going to start with you because you're a professor. You teach. What comes out of your mouth, your students listen to. And you have to be very mindful of the information that you are providing to them, because if you misquote something that's factual, they can come back and say, hold up, doc, that ain't right. And I've been there. I got into several arguments with professors over some stuff that wasn't factually correct.
And you know what you do as a professor? You say, I got it wrong and I apologize, right? I will be better, because we're not superhuman. We get things wrong sometimes. But I think that's the point. When you're wrong, you have to admit you're wrong. I say this to my students all the time. There is no failure in being wrong. In fact, as a social scientist, we start from the premise that we could always be wrong. What we are working with is what the best information we have right now. And you can't say any more than the data will tell you, or the historical record will tell you. You can't read any more into it than that. And your only obligation is to the truth, not your own ideas, not your ego, not what other people might think. You have to have some fidelity to the truth. So I tell people that, my students, that all the time, if nothing else. When you get it wrong, you have to say, I got it wrong. Sometimes you have the best hunch of your life and a non-finding is what you get. But that's still a finding, because it's inching us closer to the truth. And so I think as a professional person, professors are not very different from journalists, except we have smaller platforms. But to the point you made earlier, our job is to ferret out the truth and let the chips fall where they may. And many times that means we thought it was going to go left and it went right. And that is also okay, because what we want to know is how close are we getting to some new breakthrough, to some new theory, to some new idea, to something novel that we didn't know before, to providing a little more context, as you said, chipping away at something. That's what we're doing. We're trying to eat the elephant little by little each and every time we do something, we publish something, we put an opinion out there. So our first and only obligation is to the truth. No more, no less.
Ome Congo, there's a reason why in our Black Star Network studios, y'all give me a shot, there's a portrait of the great crusading journalist Ida B. Wells Barnett. And you see the quote there. That is her famous quote. The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them.
And Charlemagne has, demonstrated that time and time again. There's not a real interest in the truth. There's an interest in building the audience and building the following. I mean, he's sitting there proudly talking in the clip about, oh, I don't know who that Niambi Carter is. I don't know who that Dr. Carr is. I don't know who that Rebecca Carruthers is. Get to know them. Understand the scholarship. Understand the leadership. And when you hear what he's saying, it just showed a level of immaturity that exists within him to just resort to name calling, almost turning into like a hip hop type of beef when the debate was about real knowledge and real information and real facts.
I just want, and again, my whole deal is, to your point, if you don't know some those parts, that's fine. I just want, and again, if you nail it, you got it. If you don't, and you don't have it, come back and say, you know what? I went and got some more information. I don't care what that is. I don't care what that is. People don't realize I read stuff. I call people. I'm calling people, like, understanding. If I don't understand it, I'll call multiple people. But the point is, and I might not bring up something if I don't have it fully down. Mm-hmm. So I may hold it a day or two until I'm comfortable with my information. That's my whole point, because we have to respect the audience. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
That person who hears you.
No, absolutely. And he was even corrected by Mehdi Hassan, who pointed at him and said, you are a problem because of the way you spread your information, but he didn't have any type of smoke or words for him. And so we have to be very mindful. As I talk about this Breakfast Club audience, I always ask myself, how many voters are they bringing to the table? What are they doing to move the needle as it relates to Black empowerment? And maybe that's just not the interest at the end of the day. And as the sister said at the end of his segment, that's a takedown. That's a takedown. That was childish. And we need grown-ups right now. We need grown-ups in this movement. We need grown-ups in this space. And we need grown-ups to really check their at the door. It was the same thing I see with Stephen A. Smith and some of his takedowns. And what you did tonight, Roland, was you talked about a commitment to the truth. And some people just have a commitment to their pocketbooks. And some people just have a commitment to growing their social media influence. And if that's where you're going to be, fine. But make sure that when you come into other spaces, you actually come with facts and you're willing to be corrected so that people can know that you have some integrity.
And here, if I get it wrong, if somebody correct me, boom, you correct. Tyler, you know what? I was in Birmingham, and a young sister came up to me, and she presented me with a blanket. And she had our show logos on it, had my picture on it. And she said, my mama homeschooled me. And she said, for the last 3 years, you were my history teacher. My mama made me watch your show every night. See, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know who that sister is. I was blown away by that. But her mama had her watching my show. And if she learned politics, if she learned about news from watching my show, I damn sure better get it right.
Absolutely. And I think we have to use our influence responsibly. I always say healthy debate within Black media is definitely necessary, but it has to be rooted in truth, accountability, and as we know here, love for Black people. And I think, both of you represent two powerful generations of Black thought leadership. And we need more spaces where more fearless reporting and more honest and holding your feet to the fire conversations is being had, because calling out disinformation isn't just fact checking; it's protecting the lives, as you said earlier today on the show. This politics thing, this is life or death, and we have to be mindful of the information that we give out. Every word we speak, every post we share, every conversation that we carry, it carries weight, because someone is always listening to us. And I know a lot of people always say, I don't got the biggest voice or the biggest platform, but even if it's your family, your nieces and nephews and your coworkers, the folks you walk past on the street, you are influencing somebody. And so in a world where misinformation is all over the place, we have a duty to be good stewards of the truth.
Yeah, I just want people to understand, misinformation does not mean that disinformation is when you're being deliberate. Misinformation means you're misinformed. You may have half of the story, you may repeat it, but you left the other half out. So I think people get all sensitive about the idea of misinformation. That's why my whole point is very simple. No one will ever throw out misinformation or disinformation when you speak complete truth. And not Kellyanne Conway's alternative facts. Facts are not alternative.
Right.
It's either factual or it's not. It's either truthful or it's not. And that has to be the simple and basic standard. Tyler, Niambi, Omekongo, I still appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much. Folks, as I said, I am here in Bermuda. The Bermuda Tourism Authority, they, of course, have this PJ tournament, and they invited me out here. I know I love play golf, but I'm going to be doing interviews with people here, talking about, look, this is a black country. We're going to be having a great conversation, not just talking about golf, but some other things as well. So I can't wait to interface with the people, be sharing some of those stories right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Folks, I'm going to see you guys tomorrow, but before we go, again, let me thank all of y'all who watch this show. Let me thank all of y'all who comment. We have more than 5,000, probably like 6,000, 7,000 people. Do me a favor, hit that like button on YouTube. But share this with folks so they understand what we're all about. Again, we about every day. If we can inform and enlighten and educate one more brother and sister than yesterday, then we've done our job. So support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute to our fan club via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here, bottom left-hand corner. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Check some money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, of the Brownie of America, making white folks lose their minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Order the book online. Also, if you want our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag, be sure to go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. T-shirts, mugs, hoodies, wall art, you name it. Shop blackstarnetwork.com. Also, if you want to support the black-owned businesses that are on there, if you look at all those products that are on my set back in D.C., all those products, folks, right there are black-owned companies. Hair care, skin care, gym wraps, you name it, backpacks, black crossword puzzles. Man, we got it all. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. And, of course, we want you to support Fanbase. Download the app Fanbase, and if you want to invest, they raised $13.6 million. Folks, they're inching closer to that goal of $17 million. Go to startengine.com/fanbase, startengine.com/fanbase. And before I go, I know Matt Manning. Hey, Matt, you see my Aggies handle Missouri this weekend? Son, I told you. Number 3 in the country. I think we could be number 2 in the country in the next poll because Indiana barely got by Penn State. So this for you, Matt. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!